everyone. Welcome back to SoldOutChat. I'm Kay, the marketing coordinator here at Above Promotions, and I'm thrilled to dive into a topic that keeps every leader up at night: why your team is failing to innovate. Today, we're exploring the hidden roadblocks that stifle creativity and prevent teams from reaching their full potential. This isn't just about big ideas, it's about the everyday strategies that either enable or kill innovation. To help us tackle this crucial subject, we have two incredible guests. First, we have our CEO, Ebony Vaz. Ebony's unique background in engineering and her published research on human behavior give her a distinct data driven perspective on building high performing innovative teams. Hi, Ebony.
Hi, Kay.
Hi, and also joining us is this highly accomplished businesswoman and motivational speaker, Servola Frazier. As the CEO of Motivate Enterprises, she has spent over 20 years coaching individuals in communication and leadership, earning a reputation as a catalyst and ecosystem builder who ignites ambition and helps teams achieve their full potential. Hi, Servola.
Hi, Kay. Hi, Ebony. So great to be here with you.
Yeah, so
We're
glad that
really
you are
excited
with
to
us
have you here.
today. Yeah, we had you
Yeah,
down on our list
we've
all
been wanting to
year.
have you.
Yes.
All right. With such incredible experts with us today, let's jump right in with our first question. So, Sir Vola, I'll have this for you. What are some of the most common organizational or cultural roadblocks that prevent a team from innovating, even if the individuals are talented?
It's interesting. I've had leaders tell me this all the time. I just can't get my team to innovate. My people, they just won't. And one of the things that I share with them is I'm wondering if it's the people as much as the environment that you've created. Have you created the psychological safety that really allows for teams to feel safe, to be creative, and to think outside of the box? So I think psychological safety is probably one of the areas that we start having those conversations around. I think it's so important for organizations to recognize that sometimes that innovation is not a people problem, it's a culture problem.
You hit it, came out swinging out the gates. Come on, Servola, come through. Yes. I mean, completely agree. It's the psychological thing. And if for some reason leaders think that their team members should just read their mind and know when to bring in innovation. And truly I think that sometimes we just get in this place of going and trying to run to the finish line. And we can blame it on having access to all these tools that we didn't have before. So we are forced to go faster. But I think you have to really be cognizant and build it in. For us, for example, because I always say this when we're out teaching and talking to our clients, but even internally, we build out the teams run the meetings. I just sit back and we build out a section in every meeting for them to bring forth ideas. And I think it's important to carve that time out, but also like really mean it. Like when they get to that part, I say nothing.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yes.
moving. Because I want them to feel like they can speak, like they're the ones controlling the meeting. They can share their ideas, whether they're crazy or not. Just put it out there, and your psychological safety. That's it right there.
And it's so important that you're creating that culture where people feel safe to be able to share those ideas, because a lot of times what happens is that fear of failure starts to seep in, and people start
Hmm.
to feel like if their leader doesn't allow them to share it, that everything's gonna fall apart, or their ideas are gonna be shut down. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times when leaders are shutting down ideas, they're like, oh, that's not realistic, but they're not giving room for the creativity to actually mature. And so when you
Yeah.
don't give room for creativity to mature, you actually put your people in a box. You put them in this
Yeah.
place where they can't show up and really
Hmm.
see those ideas start to maturate and become something brilliant, because we don't, we have the old saying, Rome didn't get built overnight. It didn't get built in a day. And so
Yeah.
ideas take time, creativity takes time, innovation takes time.
Yeah. And I think too is like when they come up with the idea, it might not be for right now, right?
Yes.
It might be for 6 months down the line, or it might be something where you might already have something in place and you just need to put them together, encourage them to build beyond and on their ideas. And so I think that psychological safety, boom. That's the term right there.
I love it.
I definitely agree with you both. As someone who have like worked in a corporate setting before, one thing that's actually what I noticed that's like hindering this individuals or us individuals from like innovating is like micromanagement. So that's one thing
Mhm.
that's like making the people feel like I don't think I'm enough to give ideas. So yeah, that's one of those roadblocks. How do you think can leaders foster a culture where it is safe to fail and where curiosity is actively rewarded?
I'll start us out with that if that's okay. I think that
Go
it's one
ahead.
of those things where we have to really recognize what we're incentivizing. It's important that a lot of leaders are like, "Oh, I do this and I do that," but are you incentivizing the right thing? Are you incentivizing the right thing? And so, if people feel like their failures are going to just, in a sense, cause everything to fall apart, then you're not incentivizing the right thing. You may want to, and I know for some leaders out there, they're like, no, I'm not going to do this. But you may want to incentivize really people taking risks. Because when we're talking about
Mm,
innovation, innovation is a risk, right?
it
Innovation is a
is.
risk. And so you have to create a system that incentivizes people to take risk and not avoid those risks. Of course, there's going to be boundaries. Of course, you have to set the
Mhm.
guidelines. But I think it's really us recognizing as leaders that we really got to incentivize the right thing. So if someone shares, like I shared earlier, someone shares, hey, the leader says, hey, I want us to come up with a creative solution in order to solve X. And everybody throws ideas out there, but then the leader says, oh, that's too risky. That's too risky. Well, sometimes you've got to be willing to allow the risky things to come to the forefront so that people can actually see and mitigate those risks as they're going through this creative process. And I think a lot of times because we're in this microwave world, and feel free
Mhm.
like to interrupt me, right? Because we're in this
Yeah.
microwave world,
Yep.
we have this expectation that things are going to happen fast. And so we
Yep.
want ready-made solutions. We want
Yes.
ready-made solutions from our teams when they're not going to be ready-made solutions. And so we
Yeah.
kind of put them in this box of perfection. We want perfect instead of
Mhm.
recognizing innovation is messy.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. I think that's where startups kind of really shine, you know? They make
Yeah,
some bad decisions sometimes, but don't we
yeah.
all? But I think that they are willing to take that risk because they know they're trying to break into a larger industry and market. And so I want to come back to what you said about incentivize because when you said that, immediately I thought, wow, you know what? We really do put incentives on probably the wrong things. Like we incentivize people to go fast. We
Mm-hmm.
have these timelines. You meet this timeline by this date, you might get rewarded with something else. And so I think, you know, when you said that, that's what that made me go back to and thinking that. And then I really think that when we're talking about how can we leave this space to allow people to fail if they need to, I always like the word fail is kind of like a not right now kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hard no. It's just this might not be the right environment for something. And I think in business, we end up in this place, right? We try these ideas and it's sometimes we're too far ahead of the curve. We've had these
Yeah.
ideas and then they don't work. And then you see like 2 years later, they're now in this place of being able to work because the society is acceptable to them. But yeah, kind of going back to this part of being kind of made me think back to what Kay said a minute ago about micromanaging, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the things for me is I want to know the tasks are done. I want to know we're moving forward, but I
Right.
want you to have room to figure out how to get there the best way to make sure that, like you said, Servola, we're in these guidelines, we have these parameters, but what makes sense? Because there's things that I would do and the way that I would do them are going to be completely, totally different than how you would do them or how Kay would do them. We're just not going to completely mimic. And I think as leaders, we have to be okay with that.
It's so important. And that's what you're talking about. There is diversity of thought and diversity
Hmm.
of approaches. And I think that a lot of times leaders get scared if someone has a different approach to a solution. And the ultimate thing is you're getting to the same destination. And as long as you
Yeah.
get to this destination, then, and it's ethical and all those things, right? I think that leaders got to give room for their team to grow in that space. And
Yeah.
sometimes we want things fast. We want, like you said, we incentivize fast, we incentivize all efficiency, but we also have to recognize when we're opening the door for innovation that sometimes that
Yeah.
does slow things down a little bit. But you're
Hmm.
slowing things down now in order to speed things up later once the efficiency has
Yes.
been built, the systems and processes. So it's super important to recognize that. And when we think about micromanaging, I think leaders have to ask themselves, why are you micromanaging? Is there a trust factor, right, that's in
Hmm.
place there? Do you really trust your team? Are you empowering them to really do the work to show that they're capable of doing these things? Or are you kind of
Yeah.
pulling the thing so tight that once you really let go, they're like, boom, they're pushing so far forward and they can't even control the momentum that they have because they haven't really been allowed to be let loose to really do those things. So it's super important for leaders
Hmm.
to really do that internal check to recognize, why am
Yes.
I micromanaging? Why? And if you don't have the runway for something, be transparent about that. Be transparent. Hey, I
Hmm.
don't have the risk tolerance for what I want to see happen. So maybe some of these conversations I should not be a part of, but I'm going to give you the room to do the work and to bring it into this particular space. And once you get it up to this place, then I want to be introduced. I think we're so wanting to be in the weeds on everything that we miss an opportunity to empower our teams to show us what they can do.
Hmm.
One
Yes,
thing
give
that
them the power.
That's right. That's right. I totally agree. One thing that I'd also like to add, aside from incentivizing, this is from personal experience with Ebony, working with her for like 3 years already. Instead of like how we word things out, instead of calling it like a failure, we word it in a more positive manner. Like we call it an
Mhm.
opportunity. So
Mhm.
in that way, people would be not afraid to be like, oh, I failed, but they're like, oh, I can still improve. So that's a good thing to like making sure that you word things in a positive manner for your team.
For
I
sure.
love
Okay,
that.
so
I'm sorry. That's just, and I love that. And kudos to you, Ebony, and the team for being able to champion that because that really is a mindset shift. A lot of times we think of failure as the opposite of success, but really failure is a
Mhm.
part of success. You cannot have success
Yes.
without having some failures along the way. And so
Yes.
reshaping how we think about that because the opposite of success is complacency and stagnation. And that's where
Hmm.
we innovation can't live or thrive in. So we don't want our teams there. We want them to make those failures, but to fail forward and to fail fast.
Yes. 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 Yes.
definitely agree. So in a fast
I feel like if we were to do the captions on that clip, let's just put underline under that. I want you to feel that, yes, because I felt that all in my spirit.
so for our next question, in a fast-paced environment, how do you create dedicated time and space for teams to experiment and develop new ideas without disrupting their core responsibilities?
This is
I
a
mean,
good question because go ahead,
yeah.
Ebony.
Well, I was gonna say for us, like we'll have like different opportunities that'll come up where workshops will come up, and so I'll send the team to a workshop. It might not be completely directly in what they're doing, but it's somewhere around in what they're doing and the trajectory that we have them to go into or something that we're thinking about exploring. So for me, constant learning. I and I mean this is probably actually I can't even say that because we're in that the trust program, but I am always in some type of learning certificate, something all year. And I think my husband has gotten used to the fact that I'm always trying to learn. And so for me, that's just in me to always learn. And I want to be around other people who want to always learn. And so for us, we just allow our team to go to these events. And some of it they can go to and be like, I knew, like, Gaze went to a workshop on the weekend. She's like, I could have taught that workshop, but you don't know unless you go and you attend and you're around all those other people. So there's something about putting yourself in a learning environment. Even if you don't learn from the teacher, you might learn from someone else that's there. You might connect. They might say one thing that was worth the 2 hours of you sitting there. So I feel like always just carving out time for learning is a way. But I would love to hear your ideas, Servola.
I think that it's so important that we recognize that growth is where is, we have to keep our people in the growth zone. And that's what I hear you saying, Ebony, is that you're constantly keeping your people in the growth zone, because contrary to the growth zone is the fix zone, right? And if you're in a space where you do the same things over and over every day, then I think it's important that you have some fixed things that you put in place. And a lot of times what we have to do as leaders is we have to really think about how can we become efficient? How can we look at our systems? Because a lot of times if a team is telling me, hey, I don't have time to train, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, then I really want to take a strong assessment and look at what's really going on in their day that they can't grow, right? Because if you're not
Mm-hmm.
growing, then what are you doing? The opposite of
Yeah.
growth is dying. I mean, we're all dying every day, but fast. So I think it's important for us to recognize that we've got to ensure that we've built the right systems, that we put the right
Mm-hmm.
things in place to create the efficiencies where it can be necessary. If there's redundant tasks, then maybe some of those redundant tasks could be automated to free up time for your teams to be able to have the time for training and for growth. And not, one of the things I did with my team is I said, hey, look at the calendar for 2026. I did this over the summer. I said, look at the calendar for 2026, and I want you to look at least 3 conferences, 3 trainings, 3 workshops, 3 certifications, or whatever that you want to go to. And I want us to go ahead and build the budget for whatever that looks like for you now. And so, what am I
Mm-hmm.
doing? I'm putting them in a space where they can be excited about it. I'm saying, hey, not only are we going to invest in you, but we're going to invest in your next level of growth. And I did not put a box on what that looked like. I said it could be something unrelated to your work, it could be something that you're passionate about. Why is that? Because I want to create a space where my team feels like we're going to invest in them, and that investment is going to pay off dividends. That rate of return, or that return on that investment, is going to skyrocket our potential to be able to grow as an organization. And I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, if we don't keep our people in a growth zone, growing in all those different things that they need to grow in, we put them in a box, and then we get frustrated when they're not showing up in the way that they need to show up, because they're going to learn so many different things in so many different places, and they can't get it all from you.
Yeah, yeah. I think what we're really driving home is that to be a leader, when you have these positions, you have to build in the responsibilities of, growing and changing and learning. That has to be part of the responsibilities, being willing to learn something new. And when I think back at it, I think that must be something that we're doing just even unconsciously. Because when you think back to the interview process, I mean, we have a couple of crazy interview questions, and the team laughs about them. I'll ask them what's their favorite cookie, or where's the favorite place where they live, or in Tampa or whatever they go to. I asked a few crazy, and then I asked what was the last books they read.
Right.
So for me, I want to hear, like, in their answers, that they like to explore, that they like to go out
Mhm.
and learn new things, that they read stuff. And I guess I just never really thought that I was putting that in. And so I think what we're coming to is that responsibilities, we have to put learning and that room for growth in their responsibilities, or else we can't get the best of the person that we've put in the seat.
I love that. I absolutely love that, Ebony. Yes,
I
yes,
agree.
yes, yes.
So I'd also like to add one more thing is that actually what keeps me learning is that seeing my leader as well, like still learning new things. Like
All
she
the
loves
time.
learning new things. So it's like making you feel you want to do it yourself too. You want to follow her footsteps. So yeah,
Just random
definitely
stuff.
be a good example.
Like, what are you doing this week? I'm learning how to bake bread.
There you go. Leading
Definitely.
by
I'm
example.
like,
Leading by
oh,
example.
just
That's what's happening here.
random stuff.
We have this water cooler questions wherein sometimes I would ask, what's something you learned this week? So that's where we share things, random things that's even not work related. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely fun to keep learning. So
Yes.
beyond just technology, what role do collaboration tools play in either helping or hindering a team's ability to innovate, especially in a remote or hybrid setting, Servola?
I think that it's important for us to really wrap our heads around where the future is leading us in this. And so there's so many different tools that we can utilize. And I think a lot of times people are afraid to utilize those tools. And so this is something, when you have a multi-generational workspace where you've got folks that are from every generation, because I think we have about 5 generations in the workplace right now. And so when you have a multi-generational workplace, that collaboration, utilizing the tools to help you to be able to connect with your team is so important, especially in a remote environment. And one of the things that I tell people is use the tools. Like use the tools. AI is, trendy. It's a hot topic right now. And people are like, oh, I don't know. And I told my team, use it. Use AI. Help allow it to build efficiency. And here's the funny thing, right? So I have baby boomers on my team. I have Gen Xers on my team. I have a lot of, those multi generations. I think I have 4 generations of the 5 on my team. And it's funny to me who seems to be open to AI. They're not the ones who are open. So I one of the youngest members of my team was like, I am not going to use that. And she was just like giving me all the things. And I was like, oh, you should try this tool. And I think it's just super fun. And, it'll save you so much time with this. And just a few weeks ago, I had introduced this to her, I think about 3 months ago. And just a few weeks ago, she says to me, because my team calls me coach, she says, Coach, oh my God, this tool is just so phenomenal. And I'm like, what tool? And she was like, this tool. And I'm like, that was the same tool that I showed you 3 months ago that you were like, I'm not using that tool. And so I think it's so important for us to kind of let the fear die down and to embrace that technology is not going away. It's going to continue to go
Yeah.
before us. And so I think the first thing we have to do before we start even utilizing the collaborative tools is just embrace the fact that technology is here to stay. And how are we going to play in the same sandbox with it? And once we wrap our heads around that and recognize that not every tool is for you, but once you find the tool
Yeah.
that's for you, then really understand how to use that tool and take the time to learn. I think it almost goes back to that growth mindset that we've been talking about, staying in a growth zone, staying ever learning when you're utilizing the tools, whether it's Zoom, whether it's, I think there's a new one out there called Fiverr AI that writes your emails for you and responds and you approve them. Whatever it is, whatever you need help with, don't be afraid to use technology to bridge those gaps. And I think that's where we've been kind of struggling because we want to make sure that we keep our critical thinking skills and we keep our creativity. But
Yeah.
sometimes if you can turn over the mundane things that you can't stand to do and you can get a collaborative tool to help you do, then what do you think that opens you up for? It opens you
Yeah.
up for more creativity. It opens you up for more critical thinking. And so, I'm not going to act like I'm the expert on all the tools, but my team went through and I think we use over 30 different tools in our toolbox to advance our work. And we have integrations for all of those different tools. But I think it's so important for leaders to be thinking outside of the box and really pushing their team to think outside the box when we start to talk about these tools. I'll leave it up to Ebony to share with us even more of those tools that they're utilizing.
Yeah, no, I completely love, embracing the tools. For us, generative AI was really, everybody's like, oh, it's going to do everything. When it first dropped a couple of years ago, it wasn't something that we immediately flocked to because there were still things that it needed to do and needed to evolve, and we needed to figure
Right.
out where the best place to use it. So I think, but one of the things that you stood out to me, because I don't want, because we could go down a tools rabbit hole. I mean, Kay and I know we love some tools. We
Okay.
love some tools over here. But I think one of the things that kind of stood out to me is what you were talking about, like that multi-generational thing. And it's very, very interesting for sure, that Some people are embracing some tools and some are not. But even beyond just like AI, I think back to just communications tools.
Mm.
Remember this, and I think we still see it when I go to some companies where there are a certain generation that want to do everything in person. They don't want chats and they don't want Slack and stuff like that. So I think about the collaboration point from a communications tool. We've found that it's been difficult to get certain, generations to say like, okay, well, we're going to play in Slack. We understand that we need to use it, but we don't want to use it begrudgingly. So
Right.
what we've found is that if we set aside some parameters and say, well, this is how you could get assignments. This is where you could post ideas. These meetings are where you can come together and share more information. I think in helping to kind of streamline where some of the communications are going and getting people on the same page of what tools they need to use, I think that helps to like break down that barrier of the team wanting to adopt, because sometimes we've got these 30, 50, 100 tools that we touch throughout the year. And if you try to put them all on someone at once, no matter what generation they are, it's going to be overwhelming. And so we have to figure out how can we help guide people along the way as like, we'll use these tools for this and these tools for this. And even just keeping like a log of tools. When you get ready to onboard someone to your company, you have a log of everything you need to give them. When they offboard, you have a log of things you have to take away from them. So I
Right.
think we have to kind of organize and think about how we can strategically help guide people, help feed them to the tools that they need to use, especially. So for me, I'm not really a texter. I'm just not. But I know like a lot of people will do business that way. And sometimes clients, they want to give us assignments that way. And I have to remind them, that sounds great. Send us an email. Send an email. Like like one of our clients, she will sit down and send me like a 6 paragraph text. And I'm like, you could have just opened up Gmail on your phone to make the same thing happen, right? So I do think we have to kind of like guide certain people towards certain tools that we use, and I think that will help them to embrace a little bit more, and especially when it comes to like AI.
Yeah. I want to piggyback on something or highlight something that I love that you said, Ebony, and that is really developing a system around how you communicate and what you're going to use what tool for. I think that that is so important. We have a list within our company of all the tools that we use and what we use those in particular tools for. And that carries over to something in particular of communication. So we use emails for specific things. Like you were just saying, hey, we receive things through emails. That's how we like to receive them. And when we start to talk about multi generations in the workplace, I think it's important for, like, we've even had clients where we share with them, maybe you can put it in your signature inbox. Hey, I love, let's pick up the phone and have a conversation about anything, right? That way people know how you like to be communicated with. I think a lot of times we think that people know and they're going to, our genius is to communicate in the way that we always communicate. And we expect everybody
Hmm.
to communicate with us in that way. And we don't
Right.
recognize, that everyone has their own communication style that really speaks to them. And so on a day to day, we have to be open to communicating with others if we're going to do it effectively in a way that
Right.
really, right? And a lot of times the expectations are flipped. We're expecting people to communicate. I sent you that email. I sent you that text message. I sent you the Zoom link. And they're like, that's not how I want to communicate. I need you to pick up the phone. I would like to have a conversation. I'd like to meet you in person, whatever that may be. And so I think it's really in this space, just because technology exists for us to do it doesn't mean that we lose that critical skill of just asking people the question, what is the best way for me to communicate with you? And that will lead
Yeah,
us a
I
lot more
agree.
further down the line. And that's with companies, that's with team members. It doesn't matter. Asking that question is going to open the door to us being able to really move the needle forward with how we use any of the collaborative tools that we use.
I agree.
I definitely agree with that one. On that note, What's one simple, actionable exercise a team can do this week to start breaking down innovation barriers and generate new ideas?
So, what's one innovative or what's one thing that teams can do to start innovating and really open the door for innovation? I think one of the things that they really should do is make it fun. Make it fun. How can you make innovation fun? And one of the things that we do is we have these strategic sessions because my team is pretty much we're fully remote and we get together at least once a quarter to do in-person activities and different things like that. And so we have this moment where we have the opportunity, or in some cases, some people may say the challenge, the opportunity of the problem. And we kind of throw it out there to our team and say, hey, what would you do? What would you do to solve this? What would you do to elevate this? And as Ebony was saying earlier, we don't get in the way. We allow them to throw solutions out there because at this point this is that moment. You can have those moments of brainstorming, or like what we like to say, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's okay to have those throwing spaghetti moments and seeing what sticks for your team as you're navigating through this process. So I would say have fun with it. Throw the spaghetti at the wall. Let your team come up with those exploratory ways in order to really bring innovation. And the biggest thing is don't shut it down. The first time that you shut it down or you say no or you say something, I want you to think about that for a moment before you do it, and think about what are you trying to create? What culture are you wanting to create? And as you're thinking about the culture that you want to create, think about, is this going to add to that culture, or is this going to subtract from that culture? Because as leaders, we have to build into our cultures within our organizations intentionally. And in order to do that, we have to be the ones that lead by that example.
Definitely, definitely agree with that one. I remember whenever we have this weekly meeting, so we have this one-on-one
Mhm.
meetings and team meetings on a weekly basis. And one exercise that Ebony usually do with us is that we lead the meeting instead of her.
Mhm.
So we are really able to like share our ideas. At the end of that meeting, we share something that could actually help the client or our organization. So it's definitely great to be like open always to new ideas. How about you, Ebony?
I mean, I think exactly what Servola said. I mean, for us, we try to put it on each weekly meeting. I love that you do the quarterly in persons, but I think just allowing people to have like that time during the meeting. Again, we our team members actually run the meetings, but I think just carving out that time and allowing for people to share the ideas. And then also, like, we also encourage our team members to keep a list of their ideas. So then, as we're going throughout the year and we're feeling a little stagnant, because it's really easy for people to forget. Like, they come up with these ideas and they forget, and then we move on. So, just the act of recording in this list of places, or have a place where you can record. We have assembly where they can draft their and leave their ideas there. And if another team member likes the idea, they could probably jump in and collaborate with them. So I really think just putting that space aside on a regular basis, what that looks like, whether it's weekly or monthly, is just going to be crucial. So I would say if they're not doing that, definitely do it this week.
Thank you for that, Ebony. Looking ahead, Servola, what's the key mindset shift that companies must embrace to ensure they don't just survive but thrive on continuous innovation?
I think is really thinking about ways that you can interweave, sorry, innovation and that creativity, that fun way of doing that, and that ways of incentivizing that into the DNA of your organization. Don't do it as an afterthought. Don't do it as a one-time fun thing to do. No, interweave it into your daily practice, because if it's woven into your daily practice, then it becomes a part of the DNA, and then it becomes something that you do naturally all the time. I think a lot of times we're doing one-offs, and that's where we miss the mark. We can't do it one and done and then expect people to be able to achieve it. We don't need one night stands in our corporate spaces. We want here for the long haul. And in order for this to keep them here for the long haul, we have to create a space where they understand that it's a part of who we are as an organization and a part of the work that you're going to do on a consistent basis. So celebrate what you want to see and make sure that you're elevating that as a part of the DNA of your organization.
That celebrate what you want to see. I really love that. That's chef's kiss right there. Celebrate what you want to see. And I think that is so crucial for leaders to continue to remember. Like, what do you want people to provide? You want them to provide the innovative ideas. You got to celebrate it. Whether it's we're going to put peanut butter on the top part of the bread instead of the bottom part of the bread, celebrate it. Just celebrate it. So I really love that. Additionally, I would say that just sometimes people get so in tune and they're stuck in that one spot and they forget to look to see what others are doing. And I think that that's another crucial thing that we could really try to get leaders to do is to have them look outside, see what else is happening in the industry, whether they are sending their team members to do that, whether they're getting emails from the best newsletters in the business. Those are other ways that they can do it. So that's what I would recommend. And again, I think celebrate the wins. That's my one. Let's just underscore that, highlight it, put exclamation points behind that for sure.
And for me, I'm gonna end that with let us all keep in mind that change is the only constant thing in the world. Everyone knows that, so
Yes.
don't be afraid to take the risks always.
Yes.
So
Good
that
one,
was
Kay.
an incredible, insightful, and practical discussion on the importance of building an innovative culture. And to quickly recap, we explored how to identify and break down the roadblocks that stifle creativity, and we gained practical strategies for fostering a mindset where new ideas can truly thrive. So thank you both so much for sharing your invaluable expertise with us today, Ebony and Servola. We truly hope this episode has inspired our listeners to remove the barriers to innovation within their own teams. So, to dive deeper into this topic and explore more marketing and tech insights, be sure to check out our other solo chat episodes. You can find them on our Spotify or YouTube channel. And don't forget to connect with Ebony Vaz and Servola Frazier on LinkedIn for more thought leadership and insights on the future of marketing and technology. Thanks for tuning in to Solo Chat, and until then, keep innovating and achieving new heights.